Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Jennings and welcome to another session of Taking Care of Business. Um, Glad you're here. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different, a little bit fun. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about witchcraft or workflows, why your business feels cursed sometimes. Some of you may be able to relate to this. And you know how I always talk about profiling tools. I always talk about, how they're the linchpin of everything we do in our business. So I just want to talk about how sometimes our genius zone can also be our worst enemy. Okay, it can actually sabotage us. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And it does feel like magic sometimes because we don't even know why it's happening. And it can turn up, it can turn up in all sorts of different ways in the business. But it's often ourselves that are the saboteur or saboteur. So if you're just coming in, I'd love you to say hi, where you're from, where you're coming in from. That would be great. Then I know I'm not just talking to myself. I know a lot of you watch this after. That's fine. But it's lovely when I get some reaction while I'm live. So say hi, say where you're from. That would be awesome. Okay, so let's get going. So you ever feel like no matter how hard you work, something always goes wrong? You're always like, you're chasing, putting out fires, or, things just blow up. And then you've got another mess you've got to clean up. You've got to get the mop and bucket out and do something about it. And it could be that you're posting and there's crickets, or it could be that, you're planning, but the plans go awry. Um, or you've planned something and you think the market's going to love it and nobody comes to the party, you know. That can happen too. You feel like you're pushing, and sometimes it feels like you're pushing cement uphill. You're wading through cement. And it's really tough and it's really hard. And you think, I know it doesn't have to be this way, and I don't know why it's this way at the moment. Yeah. And you're so frustrated because you've tried everything. And you do little tweaks here and little tweaks there, and sometimes, the little tweak will fix it. Other times, the little tweak won't fix it, right? So it's yeah, it's really frustrating. It can be really frustrating. I've been there. I understand. So is it bad luck, or is it burnout, or is the business cursed, or or is something else going on? More than likely, there's probably something else going on. So we're going to look into that and see what that feels like right now. So there's a few ways that this curse can show up, and it can feel like that. It really can. I know. And sometimes you need a fresh pair of eyes to have a look for you, and the fresh pair of eyes can see it as plain as day, because sometimes we can't see what's right in front of our nose either. That can happen too. That's why it's great to have a mentor, so you can bounce these things off someone else. It doesn't even have to be a mentor or even a colleague. It's good to sit down and talk to someone else about it, but don't talk to someone else who's in your business expecting you to be the glorious leader and the person of authority. It's hard then to talk to those people. You need an external person to talk to in those instances. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is the curse of the spinning cauldron, because this is all a witchcraft theme today, just for a bit of fun. Okay, so you're always brewing something new. This will appeal to all of the people out there who've got a lot of strategic trait in their makeup. Okay, so you're always brewing something new, but nothing's ever finished. So there's another idea and another idea and another idea and another idea. And oh, that's a good idea. And you're bored with the first idea now, because in your mind, you've created it, it's done, it's finished. You've made the money, you've had the party, and everyone's gone home. And you're ready for the next thing. So that is the gift that people with high strategic have in them. Okay. However, it can also be the curse, because you don't get things completed, because you lose focus before it's ever put in place. And it takes time for these things to get traction. So you have to have patience, and strategics don't have a lot of patience. So they often move on to the next thing too early. And that's why I'm saying your biggest gift can also be your biggest Achilles heel. All right. So you've got to watch that, and you've got to make sure, like, is it the marketplace, or is it that I'm just getting impatient with this? Is it that I've already seen it so clearly in the future working, and it's not, so now it's not going to work? Well, it probably will work, but it just needs a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, a little bit more time. Okay. So that's one of them. That's the curse of the spinning cauldron. There's another one, the curse of the vanishing sales. All right. So you talk, you post, you promote, and then silence. No one's buying in. No one's commenting. No one's come to the party, right? This can happen to predominantly communicative traits because your specialty is message to market. Your specialty is selling. Your specialty is anything to do with sales and marketing, right? However, it can be that you're out of sync or in poor alignment with the offer that you're actually trying to sell, whatever that might be. Whether it's product or service, doesn't matter. Let's call it an offer. Okay? So there just could be a little piece out of alignment that needs to be tweaked. And again, you're so into the posting and the being with people and, getting in front of people and promoting and networking and building relationships that you forgot that you've got to actually look at the actual offer. And is it landing everyone, or is it only landing a few? Because that can be happening too. Because there are 4 different ways that your sales has to land. People hear it 4 different ways. So have you looked at all of that? Have you decided that some people need to have all the information to make a decision? Some people need a little bit of information to make a decision. And some people need to have overnight to make a decision. Have you forgotten about that? Is it that tweak that you need? Because what we often do when we are selling, we think everyone wants to be sold to the way we like to be sold to, and that is not the case. 25% of the population like to be sold to the way we like to be sold to, but you're leaving 75% on the table. Okay? So that's the curse of the vanishing sales. Then we've got the curse of the overloaded oracle. Okay, so you're doing it all, you're juggling everything, you've got the 8 tentacles of an octopus, juggling everything, and everything sucks. It's that sort of stuff. And think you're dropping things because you've got too much on your plate, basically. So this is the implementational trait. Great at getting things done, great at checklists, fantastic at team harmony and getting everyone to get everyone on the same page so that you can work from there. Great negotiators. However, because they love team harmony so much, they tend to like to avoid conflict. And sometimes with things especially when things are dropping in the business, things are being overlooked, or things are not being delegated to the appropriate person, things like that. Or there's a customer service issue that's arising, and that's causing a bit of bushfires that you have to put out. Okay, so these things can happen, and when you're all about that checklist, you just focus on that checklist, and because you can tick off the checklist, you think everything's okay, even though everything's falling down around you. So that can be the Achilles heel for the implementers, because they are fantastic at getting things done, but they want to follow that checklist. They don't want to deviate from it. Okay? And so, well, but it's on the checklist and I did that. Why isn't it working? So it needs a bit more analysis, okay? So you might have to bring someone else in from another team, like the logical team, to have a look at it and see what is actually going on. This is how this whole system works together so beautifully. This is why I'm so passionate about it. All right? And then we've got the curse of the frozen wand. Okay? I'm taking my kids to see Harry Potter in Brisbane in a couple of weeks' time. My kids are like in their 30s. Okay? but they were real Harry Potter fans. That's why I've gone with this theme, just in case you're wondering. Okay, so the curse of the frozen wand. You can overthink and underact, and so you actually have got paralysis analysis. You're over analyzing, and logicals will do this. Logicals, their biggest strength is their ability to analyze. Their biggest strength is to dot every I and cross every T. Their biggest strength is to see all the detail, but they can get so bogged down in the detail that they are very slow to make a decision. And in business, we often have to be very fast to make a decision. So before it blows up in our face. So if things are blowing up because of something hasn't been analysed or something that's been missed, okay, in the systems and processes that we have, then that could be something that's affecting the business. And this is a business owner as well, because you could be these profiles as a business owner, right? And so your focus is on that, and that could be stagnating your business, holding your business back, or you could be trying to gallop too fast. You know, there's a whole lot of things that could be going on when the business owner gets involved from their perspective of business through their genius zone, through the profiling tool, okay, that we use. So that can be the curse. Over analyzing can be the curse, even though that is also their strength. That's also their genius zone. And then they've got the curse of the lone sorcerer. Okay, so this is when you're in business but you're completely on your own. So you've got to do everything. And you're casting every one of your spells solo. Okay, and again, you're coming from one perspective of business. So you can often miss things or misjudge things or ignore things altogether because you don't even see it. All right, we often don't. We can't see what we can't see. So you're trying to be all of the traits and wondering why you're exhausted, wondering why you feel like wading through cement, wondering why this is so hard to run a business, thinking about going back and working for someone else. If you can relate to any of these things, just drop an emoji in the comments so I know that, you know, you might have one of these things going on at the moment in your business that I just spoke about. So how can you break this curse? How can you get everything back on track? Okay, so here's the curse breaker. Reveal the hidden pattern. Okay, so most of these sorts of curses are simply misalignments and the wrong tasks being done by the wrong energy in the wrong systems. Okay, so it's all totally fixable. It's just that you have to see it from a different perspective and get out of that long grass because we just can't see through it, right? The next step is to cleanse the clutter. Okay, so what's one thing that you know you're doing now that you shouldn't be doing? You really shouldn't be doing, and it takes a lot of time and it holds you back from working on the things that are in your genius zone. What's that? And that thing that you always procrastinate over doing, and you'll do it last. What's that thing? Okay, oh, that's just dropped. What is that thing that you procrastinate over all the time? And what would it look like if you delegated, ditched it, or outsourced it? How would that feel? A lot better, wouldn't it? Because we spend a lot more time in the things where we are out of alignment with who we are. And so it ends up costing us money anyway, because if we could have been focused on sales calls, or we could have been focused on, you know, something else in the business that's going to actually move the needle, which is where the entrepreneur, the business owner, needs to be focused on moving the needle. Okay. Another one, cast the alignment spell. So building a business that matches your alignment completely and building a team around that. I don't mean today. If you're bootstrapping your business, it takes time to do this. But at least understanding the things that you're going to outsource very, very quickly, as soon as you possibly can. That gives you a light at the end of the tunnel, number one, so it doesn't feel as frustrating. Because you know, as soon as you can, you're going to get rid of it. Okay? It also gives you permission to suck. And this is a real thing, because as humans, we beat ourselves up when we can't do something well, because we've been sold the myth from human resources division that we should be able to be good at everything. And it's just not true. They've sold you a lie. They even believe the lie. All right? I'm not saying anything against them, because that's how they've been taught at university. That's how everyone thinks businesses work. And it's not. It's not how businesses work. It's how businesses are dysfunctional, as a matter of fact. Okay? Businesses are totally dysfunctional if the team members cannot be in alignment with who they are. So whenever you write an ad for a new staff member, in the traditional way, you would see there would be duties for strategy, for communication, for implementation, and for systems and processes. Every job description I've ever seen is asking everyone to be good in all those 4 areas. No wonder, A, the business owner gets disappointed with the new recruit because they can't possibly do it. You're asking for Superwoman or Superman. Okay. And B, when the person gets in the job, they're going to be overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed with 75% of the duties, because they're only going to be in alignment to 25% of them. Does that make sense? So don't work with job descriptions, because it doesn't work. And don't expect everyone to be good at everything, because that doesn't work either. And what happens when we expect including yourself as business owner, what happens when you believe everyone should be good at everything? Our expectations are too high in some areas and too low in others, because we're not recognizing where their genius is. We're not supporting that genius. So it's detrimental to the business completely. And people come to work and they're working at 50% their capacity. They are, because they're wasting time on things they're not good at doing. And then the human resource department says, and this is in my case, right? We need you to manage our budget, so we're going to send you on this accounting program so that you'll be able to manage the budgets more effectively. I've got 4% of what's needed to manage a budget in my makeup. 4%. So this happened to me. They sent me off on a course. It was a 5-day course. I wanted to, I can't tell you how horrible it was for me. It was just awful. Okay. I got through it. I survived. I came back to work and I changed my behavior for about 12 weeks. Most people can manage to change their behavior for about 12 weeks. But after 12 weeks, it goes back to how it was before. And then the human resource department say, oh, that program sucks. It didn't work. We wasted money on that program. No, you didn't waste money on that program. You sent the wrong person to that program. That's what's happening. So much money is wasted in organizations because of this playing out. This is why I'm so passionate about changing it. And the other thing is, everyone, in the organization is stressed to the max because they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. They're doing things they should have delegated. So they're stressed. Absenteeism is high because there's a lot of doona days going on, because there's a lot of Monday-itis going on. Okay. And people are not engaged in the work because they're hating 75% of it. They're not productive because they're procrastinating over at least 25%, if not 50% of their duties, because it's just not their zone. It's not their juice, not their jam. And then we wonder why we need all these extra people, but we're still putting people doing the wrong tasks. And organizations have kept doing this for decades. Decades and decades. When are we going to change it? We need to change it now. We need to change it now, because what happens is when those people are doing that for decades, they end up getting ill. It shows up when it's really bad, and I've been through it myself, when you're really out of alignment with the job that you're doing, but you do it anyway. And you try to do it to the best of your ability, right? So you're really stressed to the max because it's taking all your energy to try to keep going. When you're working like that every day and you're doing that for 10 years, it'll show up in cancer, stroke, or a heart attack. So you're doing everyone a disservice for their health as well. So I encourage you to get to understand these principles and get to start working with them as soon as possible, for your sake and for your team's sake. Because what happens when everyone is working on projects, in project-based teams, is we have true self-managed teams when they understand all this. We have people working across projects happily, only working in their genius zone areas, but working on every project. There's more engagement, there's more laughter. Everything is done a lot faster, so productivity goes through the roof. No one's procrastinating over anything. Okay, absenteeism goes down because everyone wants to be there. There are so many benefits to the organization when you implement this. I can't start to describe how it changes the culture in such a positive way and so quickly. It doesn't take long to put this in place at all. Okay. All right. So I can give you an example of this with one of my students that I've had recently in the Roadmap to Millions bootcamp. So she's coming from a logical trait, right, which is attention to detail. And she'd been trying to start a business for about 18 months and had several mentors and just couldn't get it off the ground. And when I looked at her profile, I realized that her strategic trait was 0%. Zero. And strategic is all about starting things, the beginning of things, the ideas, getting moving, getting going, inspiring others to the vision. She had none of that going on in her makeup. She had beautiful courses written, gorgeous, all the detail, everything was done. Whole curriculum was done. It was just so well thought out, so well planned. But she had no one coming to the party because she didn't know how to get it off the ground. She came into the boot camp and it changed everything for her. Okay, and she now is so happy because we've also figured out a way she can run her business without her being forced to be a pretend communicative person, because that's what happens too. Everyone says, oh, you've got to do social media, you've got to have your face on camera all the time, you've got to be in their face, you've got to be DMing, you've got to be messaging, you've got to be doing this, you've got to be doing that. And that's great for the people who have got those traits. But it is agony for the people who are opposite to that. Does that mean that they shouldn't have a business? No. It means that they should make the systems work for them instead of the communication working for them, like the personal communication working for them. The systems is how they reach out to people. And then they're in their zone, they're comfortable. And that's what happened also for this student, because everyone was telling her she had to do the opposite of who she was to make a business successful. And her whole demeanor has changed. When she first came to me, she was very drawn in the face. Now she's all lit up because we were able to tweak everything to suit who she really is and to allow her permission to be who she really is. That's the most important thing. That's the key. Because then everything changes. Everything changes. Everything's easy then. You're not wading against wet cement. It becomes beautiful and magical, which is why the theme today. So if you've got invisible forces going on in your business and you're ready to break that curse and finally get it to where it will be lovely and easy to do in alignment with exactly who you are, I would encourage you to come and do a debrief with me. Let's get your profile done. Let's see who you really are, and let's see what your business is currently doing and see if it's in alignment or out of alignment. If it's in alignment, well, then you can do more of what you're already doing, and that's fine. But if it's out of alignment, then, there's some tweaks you can do immediately that would alleviate that. And I can go through some of those on the call with you. And I can also present the roadmap to millions if you're interested in having the sort of magic happen that happened to that student who's about to graduate next week. Okay, so if you would like to do that, just put down in the comments below debrief and we'll organise one for you. Okay, completely free of charge at this stage. It may change, but at this stage I don't charge for that. All right, I would love to see you there. I'd love to find out exactly who you are and uncover that and, give you that freedom to be you as well, as I've given it to so many others in the past and continue to do so. All right, everyone, thank you so much for that. And I'll see you again next week for another session of Taking Care of Business. Bye. Have a great day.